In the heart of the world's richest country, a quiet crisis stretches along sidewalks, beneath bridges, behind grocery stores, and across forgotten alleyways. Tent cities, made of blue tarps, tattered sheets, and cardboard signs, are now a common sight in cities like Los Angeles, San Francisco, Portland, and New York. These makeshift communities speak louder than any statistic. They reveal a truth that America is reluctant to confront. Today, we take a deep look into the homelessness crisis in America, specifically the reality of those forced to live in tents. This isn't just about poverty. It's about systemic neglect, rising inequality, broken mental health systems, and a housing market that has priced millions out of their homes. Forget the stereotypes. This isn't just about addiction or bad decisions. It's about real people. People who once had jobs, apartments, routines, families. People who are now sleeping rough every night, just blocked away from billion-dollar development. The tent cities of America. Drive through any major American city and you'll eventually find them. Rows of tents, huddled together on sidewalks, freeway underpasses, empty lots. What used to be a rare sight has become the norm in places like San Francisco's Tenderloin District, Skid Row in Los Angeles, or Portland's southeast neighborhoods. These aren't campsites. These are homes. At least they are for the people living in them. Most tents are crowded with belongings: a sleeping bag, a shopping cart, some canned food, maybe a pet. There's often no running water, no toilets, no heat. In the winter, people freeze. In the summer, they suffocate under the sun. When it rains, everything gets soaked, including clothes, bedding, and what little paperwork someone might still carry: an ID, a birth certificate, a social security card. And yet, this is where tens of thousands of people across America now live. The growth of these tent cities is a symptom of a much deeper illness. According to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, over 650,000 people were homeless on a single night in 2023. Of those, nearly half were unsheltered, meaning they had no access to any kind of temporary housing. Most of these people are living in vehicles, abandoned buildings, or tents. Cities have responded in different ways, some with compassion, others with crackdowns. But the tents keep multiplying. Who are the people? In these tents, it's easy to dismiss the homeless as lazy or addicted. But that's a dangerous oversimplification. Many people living in tents once had stable lives. They were teachers, Uber drivers, retail workers, caregivers. They were students, parents, veterans. For some, one accident, one illness, one layoff was all it took. Take a single mother working a minimum wage job. She earns $15 an hour. That's about $2,400 a month before taxes. The average rent for a one-bedroom apartment in Los Angeles is over $2,000. How is she supposed to pay for food, childcare, transportation, and health insurance? Now imagine she misses a rent payment. She gets evicted. There's no family to help. Homeless shelters are full. The waiting list for affordable housing is years long. She buys a cheap tent and sets it up in a quiet alley. She tells her child it's camping. She doesn't tell her child about the rats, the drug dealers nearby, or the constant threat of being swept away by the city. This is the reality for thousands of American families. Then there are the elderly, the disabled, the mentally ill, veterans struggling with PTSD, young people fleeing abuse, LGBTQ youth rejected by their families. This isn't just about economic hardship, it's also about trauma, isolation, and lack of support. Once someone becomes homeless, the barriers to getting back on their feet are enormous. The cost of being homeless. Living in a tent may sound like a form of freedom to some, but in reality, it's anything but. There's constant noise, sirens, arguments, construction, traffic. There's no privacy, no security. Theft is common. Women are particularly vulnerable to assault, and when someone does get sick, finding medical care becomes nearly impossible. Try managing diabetes without a refrigerator. Try taking antibiotics without clean water. There are no bathrooms. People relieve themselves behind buildings or in buckets. That's not just degrading, it's a public health crisis. Police often conduct sweeps of tent encampments, forcibly removing people, bulldozing their belongings, and throwing everything into dumpsters. Sometimes it's done in the name of public safety or sanitation. Other times it's clearly just to move the problem out of sight. But the sweeps don't solve homelessness. They just scatter people, pushing them deeper into isolation and instability. It's like trying to sweep the ocean with a broom. Then there's the mental toll. Constant stress, sleep deprivation, malnutrition, and trauma create a vicious cycle. People begin to lose hope. Some turn to drugs just to escape the pain. Others shut down completely. We often blame people for being homeless. But imagine trying to hold a job while living in a tent. Imagine showing up to an interview without access to a shower, clean clothes, or even a mailing address. Society demands productivity but offers no path forward. The broken housing system. The root of this crisis is a simple equation. There are not enough affordable homes. In many American cities, housing costs have skyrocketed far beyond wage growth. Investors buy up properties and turn them into luxury units or short-term rentals. Zoning laws limit new construction. NIMBYism. The not-in-my-backyard attitude blocks homeless shelters and affordable housing developments. In some cities, like San Francisco, the median home price is well over $1 million. Even renting a room can cost over $1,500 per month. And it's not just the big cities. Rents have surged in smaller towns and rural areas too, driven by housing shortages and inflation. Public housing programs are overwhelmed. Section 8 waiting lists can take years. Emergency shelters are often full or unsafe. There are simply too many people and not enough places to go. Meanwhile, America spends billions on incarceration, policing, and military operations, but only a fraction of that on housing assistance or mental health care. Homelessness isn't just a policy failure, it's a moral failure. The irony? It actually costs cities more to leave people homeless, due to emergency room visits, policing, and sanitation, than it would to simply house them. So why don't we? Stories from the shadows behind every tent is a human story. A woman who lost her job during the pandemic. A veteran who couldn't get treatment for PTSD. A teenager thrown out for coming out as gay. An elderly man with a heart condition who couldn't keep up with rent after his wife died. They're invisible in the daytime. They blend in with the city's backdrop, but at night they curl up in sleeping bags, surrounded by the dull glow of streetlights, hoping the rain holds off, that the police don't show up, that their things don't get stolen. They wake up to the sound of garbage trucks. They line up at soup kitchens. They search for bathrooms. They dodge judgmental stares and fight off despair. They survive, barely. Some get lucky. They find transitional housing or a kind caseworker or a spot in a shelter. But for everyone that makes it out, dozens more take their place. This isn't sustainable. This isn't humane. And this isn't what America, the land of opportunity, is supposed to look like. What can be done? Solving homelessness, especially for those living in tents, will take more than charity or good intentions. It will take political will, funding, and a cultural shift in how we view poverty. We need more affordable housing. We need rent control. We need universal health care, mental health support, and addiction services. We need stronger tenant protections. We need compassion. We also need to ask hard questions. Why is it acceptable for billion-dollar tech campuses to exist across the street from homeless encampments? Why does America treat housing like a commodity instead of a basic human right? The people in tents are not invisible. They are not disposable. They are our neighbors, our fellow citizens, and if life takes the wrong turn, they could be any one of us. Until we recognize that, the tents will keep going up, the crisis will keep growing, and the American dream will remain out of reach for millions. If you've made it this far, I ask you to think about what kind of society we want to be. One that pushes the vulnerable aside, or one that pulls them up. This isn't someone else's problem. This is ours. Thanks for watching. If this video moved you, consider sharing it. Consider looking into how your city handles homelessness. And most importantly, consider how we can build a future where no one is forced to call a tent home. Stay informed, stay compassionate, and stay human.